What if I told you that the TV shows you watch every night don't actually enjoy full free speech rights under the US Constitution? That a single government agency can decide whether a channel deserves to keep broadcasting or not? And now, a commissioner from that agency just issued a chilling threat, one that could change how your favorite programs are allowed to air. Tonight, we dive deep into the fight between free speech, the FCC, and America's broadcasters. Good evening. I'm Alex with America Headlines. Tonight's story begins with a surprising statement that has left television executives across the country on edge. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr, during a podcast appearance, directly called out late-night host Jimmy Kimmel and issued a warning to broadcasters. He said stations should take action, or else the FCC might have additional work ahead. That comment may sound like just political talk, but to people inside the broadcasting industry, it was a very real threat. Why? Because the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, controls the licenses that allow television and radio stations to operate. Without that license, a station cannot legally broadcast. Imagine being a broadcaster and hearing that a government regulator is publicly suggesting your license could be at risk if you don't handle a certain comedian ES content. That's enough to make any executive sit up straight. Now, you might be asking, wait a second, doesn't it the First Amendment guarantee free speech in America? How can the government threaten TV stations over what they air? The answer lies in a little-known fact. Broadcast television and radio are treated differently than other forms of media. Back in 1943, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the airwaves belong to the public. Because there's only a limited amount of spectrum, the government was allowed to assign licenses to broadcasters under the condition that they serve the public interest. This gave the FCC incredible power, not only to regulate technical issues like frequencies and signal strength, but also to oversee content. This is why broadcast stations are required to follow rules on indecency, children's programming, and political fairness. Meanwhile, cable channels like HBO or streaming platforms like Netflix don't face these same restrictions because they don't use the public airwaves. In short, NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox must be very careful. But YouTube channels, podcasts, and Netflix shows have far more freedom to say what they want. That's the two-tier system at the heart of this controversy. For decades, the FCC has been a quiet but powerful force in shaping what Americans see and hear. During the mid-20th century, the agency often reviewed content for fairness and balance. Stations that aired too much one-sided coverage could be challenged under what was called the Fairness Doctrine. That doctrine was eventually repealed in the 1980s, during the Reagan administration, as part of a broader push toward deregulation. Since then, license challenges have been rare, and broadcasters have generally enjoyed more freedom, though still under FCC oversight. But here's the catch. Even if the FCC doesn't directly ban a program, the mere threat of action can cause networks to censor themselves. This is what critics call the chilling effect. It's like having a sword hanging over your head. You might never get cut, but the fear of it keeps you in line. And that brings us back to Commissioner Carr's comments. By suggesting broadcasters could face FCC work if they didn't take action on Jimmy Kimmel, he revived an old fear that most stations thought was long gone. This controversy has sparked a bigger legal debate. Should broadcasters still be treated differently in 2025? On one side, legal experts argue that the current system is outdated and unconstitutional. They say broadcasters should have the same free speech protections as newspapers, cable channels, or streaming services. After all, technology has advanced, and there's no longer a shortage of channels or voices. In their view, treating broadcasters like second-class citizens under the First Amendment makes no sense in the digital age. On the other side, defenders of FCC oversight say the public airwaves do belong to the people. They argue that since broadcasters use those airwaves for free, they have a responsibility to meet certain standards. They also point out that families with children still rely heavily on broadcast television, so some limits on content remain necessary. This tug-of-war has been playing out in academic papers, courtrooms, and policy debates for years. But Commissioner Carr's recent comments have brought the issue back into the spotlight in a very real way. So why should everyday viewers care about this? Because at its core, this isn't just about Jimmy Kimmel or one FCC commissioner. It's about who controls what you can and cannot see on television. If broadcasters remain under strict government authority, they may continue to self-censor to protect their licenses. That means less bold reporting, fewer controversial discussions, and more safe programming designed not to anger regulators. On the other hand, if courts or Congress step in and finally grant broadcasters full First Amendment protections, we could see a massive shift in how television operates. Broadcasters could take more risks, challenge political figures without fear of license threats, and perhaps become more competitive with cable and streaming services. For now, the debate is heating up. Free speech advocates are pushing for reform, while the FCC continues to defend its oversight role. And in the middle, broadcasters are nervously watching and waiting, hoping not to become the next target. This story touches the very heart of American democracy. How much power should the government have over the press? And as media continues to evolve, the answer to that question may shape the future of television itself. That's all for tonight's report. The clash between free speech and government regulation isn't going away anytime soon, and we'll be here to keep you updated as it develops. I'm Alex with America Headlines. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our deep dives into stories that matter. Good night.